but I understand training, discipline, pushing beyond perceived limits. And Carlyle has resources, books, and knowledge accumulated over centuries. If there's information about abilities like yours anywhere in the world, we'll find it. The certainty in her voice, the absolute conviction that we could solve this mystery together, sent warmth flooding through my chest. This was what it meant to have a mate, I realized. Not just romantic connection, but partnership. Someone who saw your struggles and immediately moved to share the burden. There's more, I said, wanting her to see everything. Advanced techniques, things that seem impossible even by supernatural standards. I moved back to the center of the meadow, Alice watching with rapt attention. Formed the hand signs by instinct, feeling chakra respond to the complex pattern. This was the technique I'd been working on for the past week, the one that required the most control and precision. The substitution. I picked up a thick branch from the forest floor, held it in my left hand while gathering chakra. Then I focused on the log I lifted earlier, visualized the exchange, and executed the technique. Reality twisted. There was a sensation of being in two places at once, of occupying both positions simultaneously for a fraction of a heartbeat. Then the world snapped back into focus, and I was standing next to the log while the branch I'd been holding lay where I'd just been standing. Alice's gasp was gratifying. She moved to examine both positions, her movements too fast to follow, checking the branch and then appearing beside me in an eye blink. "You teleported," she said, wonder thick in her voice. "Kai, you just teleported across 20 feet of space. How is that possible?" "It's not really teleportation," I explained, though honestly my understanding was incomplete. It's more like a very rapid exchange. I swap places with an object using chakra as the medium. The technique requires precise control and depletes my reserves quickly, but it's effective for evasion or repositioning. "It's extraordinary," Alice corrected. "Vampires can't do anything like that. We're fast, strong, durable, but we're still bound by physical laws. We have to cross the distance between 2 points. You just redefined what distance means." The awe in her voice made my chest swell with pride. I'd impressed a century-old vampire with supernatural abilities of her own. That felt like an achievement worth celebrating. "There's one more thing," I said, returning to stand before her. "The most important thing, really. The reason I needed to tell you all of this, to share the truth about my reincarnation and my power." I took both her hands, held her golden gaze with my own. "In my previous life, I was alone. Different. Never quite fitting into the world I inhabited. I died without ever finding someone who truly understood me, who I could be completely honest with. And when I woke up in this life, with these memories and this power, I thought I'd be alone again. Thought the strangeness of my existence would isolate me forever." Alice's expression softened, her fingers tightening around mine. "But then I met you," I continued. "This impossible vampire who can see the future but can't see me. Who's just as strange and isolated and different as I am. And I realized that maybe I was reborn, not just to have a second chance at life, but to find you. To find the one person in all of existence who could accept every impossible thing about me, because she's equally impossible." "Kai," Alice breathed, my name a prayer on her lips. "You're my mate, Alice Cullen," I said, the words feeling both profound and inevitable. "I know it with the same certainty you know through your visions, but I know it through feeling. Through the way every moment with you feels right in a way nothing else in either of my lives ever has. Through the way I look at eternity and only want it if you're there. You're my destiny, Alice, my purpose, the reason I was given this impossible second chance." Alice's eyes were bright, emotions playing across her perfect features too quickly to catalog. wonder and joy, and something that looked almost like relief. I thought I was broken, she said quietly. Thought my inability to see you meant something was wrong with my gift, that I was losing the one thing that made me special. But Kai, you're not a flaw in my visions. You're the exception that proves they're not absolute. You're proof that destiny has blind spots, that the future isn't fixed, and that terrifies me and exhilarates me in equal measure. She released one of my hands, reached up to touch my face, her cool fingers gentle against my skin. You're my mate too, she said, her voice steady despite the emotion behind it. I knew it the moment I saw you in the cafeteria, even if I couldn't admit it to myself right away. Knew that you were the blind spot I'd been seeing in my visions for years, the space where my happiness existed but I couldn't quite see its shape. And now I know why. Because happiness, real and true and absolute, can't be predicted. It has to be lived, experienced, chosen every single day. And you choose this? I asked, needing to hear her say it. Choose me, despite the mystery and the uncertainty and the fact that I might be dangerous? I choose you, Alice said firmly. Choose the mystery and uncertainty and the possibility of danger. Because Kai, you're not just my mate. You're my adventure. The one thing in my entire existence that I can't predict or control. And I've discovered I don't want to predict or control you. I just want to experience you. Every surprising, impossible, extraordinary moment. She pulled me closer until we were mere inches apart, her golden eyes bright and absolutely certain. I love you, she said simply. I love you with the totality of my considerable existence. I love that I can't see your future because it means we get to build it together. I love your power and your kindness and your absolutely ridiculous white hair that makes you look like an anime character come to life. I love everything about you, Kai Swan, and I will spend the rest of forever proving it. The words settled into my chest, burrowing into that place where the chakra coiled and pulsed. Love. She loved me. This extraordinary creature who'd lived decades and seen millions of futures loved me, completely and absolutely and without reservation. I love you too, I said, my voice rough with emotion. Love you with everything I am, everything I was, and everything I'm becoming. You're my forever, Alice. My eternity. The one constant in a life that's been nothing but change and possibility. I closed the remaining distance between us, and we kissed in the center of the meadow, surrounded by flowers and filtered light and the absolute certainty of destiny fulfilled. The kiss was different this time, deeper, more complete. Not the tentative exploration of our first kiss in the forest, but the absolute claiming of mates recognizing each other. Her cool lips against mine, her fingers in my hair, my hands on her waist pulling her closer. Time stretched and compressed, the world narrowing to just this, just us, just the perfect rightness of a connection. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless despite Alice's lack of biological need, the world felt fundamentally altered, brighter, more vibrant. Like the act of admitting our love had somehow made reality more real. So, what happens now? I asked, my forehead resting against hers, unwilling to create distance between us. Now we face the world together, Alice said, her voice steady despite the smile I could hear in it. My family needs to meet you properly, needs to understand what you are and what you mean to me. Bella and Edward need to navigate their own complicated connection, and you need to continue training, growing stronger, preparing for the challenges that are coming. Challenges? I questioned, something in her tone suggesting weight beyond the general. Alice pulled back slightly, her expression turning more serious. My visions have been showing me fragments, pieces of possible futures that are concerning. Nothing concrete yet, no clear threats. But Kai, our world is dangerous, filled with vampires who don't share my family's philosophy, supernatural creatures with their own agendas, humans who would fear and destroy anything they don't understand. We've marked ourselves as different, as special. That will draw attention eventually. Then we'll face it, I said firmly. Together. Whatever comes, we'll be ready. I'll train harder, push my limits until I'm strong enough to stand beside you against any threat. And you'll help me understand this power, master it, become worthy of being your mate. You're already worthy, Alice said, fierce and immediate. But I won't discourage the training. I've seen glimpses of what you might become, Kai. Fragments of futures where your power has grown beyond anything I can fully comprehend, where you stand against threats that would terrify even ancient vampires. Those futures excite me, because they mean you survive, thrive, become something truly legendary. No pressure then, I said, and was rewarded with her musical laugh. We spent the rest of the morning in the meadow, talking about everything and nothing. Alice shared more stories of her existence, the decades of learning to be more than a monster, the family she'd found, and the life they'd built together. I told her more about my previous life, carefully editing the specifics but sharing the feelings, the isolation and difference and search for meaning. We talked about the practical matters too, how to approach introducing me formally to her family, when to reveal the full truth about our bond to Bella and Charlie, how to navigate the increasingly complicated dynamics at school now that both Swan twins were entangled with vampires. The sun tracked across the sky, though we barely noticed beneath the forest canopy. Time felt irrelevant, malleable, like the meadow existed in a bubble separate from the normal flow of hours and minutes. It was Alice who finally, reluctantly, suggested we needed to return to reality. Carlyle wants to meet you, she said as we walked hand in hand back through the forest. Properly meet you, not just a polite acknowledgement at school. He's curious about your abilities, about the source of your power, and he's protective of family, wants to assess whether you're a threat. Am I? I asked. A threat to your family? Alice laughed. You're the least threatening person I've ever met, and I include humans in that assessment. But you're also incredibly powerful and getting stronger every day. Carlyle needs to see that power for himself, understand its nature. Once he does, once he recognizes that you're my mate and therefore family, he'll be your strongest ally. When? I asked simply. Tomorrow. Sunday afternoon. Come to our house. Meet everyone officially. And, Kai, be yourself. Show them what you can do, but more importantly, show them who you are. That's what will win them over. Not your power, but your character. We emerged from the forest near my house, the familiar sight of civilization feeling almost jarring after hours in the meadow's ethereal beauty. Alice stopped at the boundary between trees and lawn, that invisible line she'd never crossed before. Tomorrow? She repeated. 2:00. I'll text you the address, though you probably already know it from all the research you've done. Stalking, I corrected with a grin. The word you're looking for is stalking. I've been stalking the Cohens through careful observation and information gathering. That's such a creepy way to phrase it, Alice said, but she was laughing. I prefer to think of it as healthy curiosity about your mate's living situation. She rose on her toes, pressed a quick kiss to my lips, then was gone in a blur of motion, leaving only the faint scent of freesia and the warmth of her affection. I stood there for a moment, letting the reality of the day settle into my bones. I told Alice everything, shared the deepest secret of my reincarnation, demonstrated my abilities, admitted my love. And she'd accepted it all, embraced it, claimed me as completely as I'd claimed her. Tomorrow I'd face her family, would demonstrate my power and hopefully convince them I was worthy of standing beside one of their own. It should have been terrifying. The prospect of facing a coven of vampires and asking for their blessing. Instead, I'm not exactly in a position to judge. Edward and I have our own complicated dynamic developing. He terrifies me and fascinates me in equal measure. So yeah, we're both in deep with creatures who could kill us without effort. But Kai, I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be. The Swan twins, making terrible decisions and loving every minute of it. I laughed, moved to hug my sister, grateful beyond words for her understanding and support. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new revelations, new thresholds to cross. But tonight, I had this. The certainty of Alice's love, the support of my sister, the growing mastery of impossible power, and the absolute conviction that my second life, strange and supernatural and extraordinary, was exactly what I'd been meant for. The real adventure was just beginning, but I was ready for it, more than ready. With Alice beside me, with power growing inside me, with a destiny that couldn't be predicted or controlled, I was unstoppable. Welcome to Forever, I thought as I headed upstairs to prepare for tomorrow's meeting. Welcome to the impossible made real. The shinobi and the seer facing eternity together. It was going to be extraordinary,